Hi all, thanks for joining us today, and it's my pleasure to chat with Dr Robert Makgill, Barrister, Environmental, Public and International Law. Hey Robert, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Stephen. Thank you for inviting me along to have a discussion.
Oh, you are most welcome. You're most welcome, and it's certainly been an interesting year, hasn't it?
It's been one of those years that I think quite a few people would prefer to forget. I heard a comedian the other day say that we shouldn't celebrate the beginning of the year. We should wait until it's finished and then decide whether we're going to celebrate it or not.
Very true. Very true. I'm sure not many of us thought this time last year we would be where we are. So,
no, I think though it's created an opportunity for people to really think about what's important to them. The forced pause, in my view, has not been such a bad thing, especially from an environmental perspective.
Yes.
But also from the perspective of, do we need to travel to work? What can we do at home? Do I have time to say hi to my neighbour?
Yes. Yes, really good points. You know, just be present and more engaged. So you've seen, I'm sure, lots of change, and the legal profession has been evolving over the last several years anyhow. But given what has happened, what are your thoughts that might be occurring over the next few years?
Well, I think I go right back to when I was finishing my law degree. And I was employed as a junior lecturer at that time to teach law and information technology. And one of the things I taught fourth year students was how to use email and how to email a Word document to one another. And they were blown away. They really were. And I look back at that and I often smile, because modern technology today has just catalyzed the amount of legal services that can be provided remotely. And I think that provides an opportunity for a sound work-life balance. As an environmental barrister, I decided that I didn't need central city premises about 6 years ago. Since that time, I've continued to grow my litigation practice. My work has become more, or my work day has become more productive, and I now have time for family and recreation. And so I think the electronic medium has allowed us greater freedom in a lot of respects.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. And you've mentioned a little some of the opportunities which we will touch upon, but some of the challenges.
Well, technology is a double-edged sword. It's enabled lawyers to work remotely, and I think that's a really great development. However, it's been accompanied, in my view, by an assumption that all communication requires an immediate answer. So, in my view, we need to address the expectation of availability.
Yes.
Particularly as it applies to junior lawyers, because it contributes to poor decision-making and to burnout. And I think these are real issues as a legal profession we need to think about. I'm nearly 50 and I'm in a position to make increasing decisions about what I will and won't do as a senior barrister, but I'm very conscious of the junior lawyers and senior associates that I work with. They don't get a lot of choice. They feel under this obligation when you send them an email or if you phone them that they've got to get right back to you. And I'm constantly saying, you've got other things to do. I'm not expecting you to come back to me immediately. I know you'll get to me, particularly when it's the weekend. If I email you on the weekend, that's because I've chosen to work. I'm not choosing for you to work on the weekend.
Yeah. But it's a really valid point, isn't it, as you've mentioned, this concept of how do we also switch off?
Yeah. And I think mental health is something that the profession is beginning to grapple with, but the legal profession tends to be slow. And there are good things about incremental movement. It means that you don't end up with radical departure from good ideas. But I think that it's accompanied with a systemic hierarchy that tends to say the right things, and I, without alienating myself from my corporate instructing clients, tends to look at maintaining a line, and whether there's substance behind that line or not, I am at times a little bit unsure. I've been in a political representative on the New Zealand Law Society, and I think that there's a lot of time spent talking and discussing the right things: diversity, access to justice, mentoring, but I'm not sure how good that is at filtering down to the level where it really needs to be having an impact and to be contributing to a functional profession.
Yeah, absolutely. That moving the words and the rhetoric into action.
Absolutely, and at times I think there are, and I don't want to sound like I'm completely left of centre, but I think at times, or quite often in the past, the profession has valued profit over people, and I think it's fine to make a healthy living out of the profession. I do. I would be very much a hypocrite if I declaimed making a good living out of the law. But I think that needs to be balanced with a profession that is socially responsible and cohesive, because the way that we behave and the way that we approach the profession is reflective of the way in which not only are we perceived by society, but also how society perceives law and justice.
Great points. Good to hear you say that. So you've touched upon a couple of the opportunities, further ones that you believe that we can hopefully start to expand upon?
Environmental law was considered a niche area when I commenced practice. This is quite simply a fallacy. It's been an area of practice stretching back to antiquity. It's simply been known by other names. Natural law, tort, public law. It's always been with us.
Right.
It simply was given more of a face, particularly in the 90s, when it was defined as environmental law and entered into statute. And we started adopting international terminology like sustainability and precautionary approach and things like that. And also, importantly, the commons and common interest, because common interest is fundamental to environmental law. It's the idea that nobody shall take more than they need to the detriment of anybody else. And that stretches right back to antiquity.
Yeah.
But it's certainly an area since I commenced practice that is beginning to have a pervasive influence on all areas of practice. I see it in tax, I see it in commercial contracts, I see it in property law, I see it in directors' responsibilities, company law. It's just becoming very pervasive. And this is partly a reaction, in my view, to some of the large problems we face, such as climate change and biodiversity loss. So I must qualify that there are a lot of people now wanting to do environmental law, and it's becoming increasingly competitive. But I think more jobs are going to open up in this space, because these are issues that we need to face together. We survive together, or we die alone. And so while it is an increasingly competitive area, I think it will grow as a field of practice. And I think that environmentally trained lawyers will have increasing numbers of job opportunities that may not necessarily be within the legal practice itself.
Right, yeah, good point. And Robert, some of your own personal hopes?
I am optimistic that legal practice will play an increasingly constructive role in assisting to solve critical environmental issues. Law students and graduates that I meet are aware of the issues and the need for a paradigm shift towards social and environmental responsibility. I really think we need to encourage them as our future leaders.
Yeah. Great to hear, and great to hear that they don't need to live exclusively of each other, that we can, as you've spoken today, that we can have great practice, earn good money, be interested, but equally have a socially and a community aspect around that.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because the students that I meet, they're asking me these questions, and I think that our profession still has an inclination, senior practitioners, to, to try and educate law students as to what the expectations of the profession are going to be of them. And I think that's worthy, and I think that's important. But I think that we equally need to listen to the students and hear what the expectations they have are of the law.
Totally. Absolutely. Co-author, co-create, and work mutually beneficially for each other. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Robert, thank you. It's been a great pleasure chatting to you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephen. It's been a pleasure talking to you too.
You're most welcome. And go and enjoy some good surfing.
I will do. Thanks.